Welcome, Gearheads. Speed City F1 post-race show for the Canadian Grand Prix. This is Jon Massengale. I'm live in the studio in Austin, Texas, and we just watched a Formula One race, and it was not the most exciting race, but it had a very interesting finish, and we'll talk all about it. And Bob Varsha, joining us from your home studio in Atlanta. And we watched the McLarens come together, and we probably expected this at some point this year, and I'm not sure that this is the one I expected it. But yeah, we saw Lando Norris take full blame for running into the back of his teammate, Oscar Piastri.
Yeah, and let's not talk about this like it's some kind of, funereal dirge or something. I mean, yeah, it was expected. Zach Brown, right at the top of the pyramid at McLaren, said, it's going to happen. Andrea Stella said it's going to happen. These guys are going to come together, and somebody might make a misjudgment, and the two cars would come together. I think in their heart of hearts, they would hope that at least one of those cars would emerge from any collision, and it did. Oscar Piastri off the podium for the first time in 9 races, I believe it is.
Yep.
Lando Norris rightfully put his hand up, said, that was on me. And I'm still sitting here wondering how in the world he thought that move was ever going to work.
Yeah.
Shut up!
Squeezing between his teammate and the wall. Yeah, it was just,
I'm going to need a minute, Bob, because I'm still looking up funereal dirge. So give me just a second here.
Well, let's not be down about this. It was exciting. It was a heck of a race for a while there. It was another one of those strategy jobs. Cars started coming in to get off the medium tire right in the first dozen laps or so, and Verstappen was the first one to come in. And then we saw different decisions being made. Charles Leclerc very upset with his Ferrari team for putting him on consecutive sets of hard tires, which meant he could not do a one-stop. He had to come back in order to meet the rule and put on a set of mediums or soft, should he choose. So there was a lot going on in the pit lane and a lot of very, very, chessboard-like moves going on. Trouble for the Williams team. Alex Albon, another engine issue for them that dropped him out of the race. Liam Lawson dropped out of the race for Racing Bulls. So we had a lot of cars on track at the end, and McLaren's going to talk it over and come out swinging in Austria, I'm sure, which, if anything, is a tougher track than Montreal. So, they'll have to make sure they have their ducks in a row in terms of competition between their drivers. Obviously, Lando Norris is going to have to be a lot more careful now because he's now 22 points rather than 10 behind his teammate, Oscar Piastri, in the championship. So Piastri comes out of this looking pretty good, all things considered. At least in the drivers' championship.
Those when they approach that full race 25-point difference, that's when the drivers really start to get nervous, I would have to say, and start to think those little thresholds are always fun to keep your eye on. But I want to go back to what you said, chessboard. Yeah, I was joking at the top of the show that it wasn't the most exciting. Yeah, because there wasn't a lot of, necessarily a ton of passing, but it was one of those races that I think about if you're a new fan that you're trying to figure out the sport. This may be more difficult to watch. But yes, there was a lot of strategy going on. And
there were...
Yeah, go ahead.
In fairness, there was passing. I mean, you saw in the middle of the group, Alonso was passing guys right and left. Sainz was working his way forward. It's... The problem for the fan and even the television viewer is you can only comment about what you saw, which means television is bound to show it to you. And that doesn't always happen. I can't rise in defense of my own industry. And even at the racetrack, obviously, you can't see everything that's going on. But yeah, I thought there was a decent amount of passing in that race. Not a lot of close quarters stuff. A lot was DRS. There were some dives down the inside and even runs around the outside down in turn 2. So, I thought it was a decent representation of current Formula One, if you will.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. And I'm just going to run down the finishing order here real quick. George Russell wins the race, followed by Max Verstappen and Kimi Antonelli, his first podium. And I think he has become the third youngest podium driver to finish on the podium in history for third youngest. I think it was Max Verstappen, Lance Stroll being number 2. And then
I was going to guess Verstappen and Vettel, but was it Stroll?
Yeah, it was Stroll, at least according to the tweet I think I saw from motorsport.com.
Then they know.
And then followed by Piastri, Leclerc, Hamilton, Alonso, Hulkenberg, Ocon, Sainz wrap up the top 10 points finishers. Behrman, Sonoda, Colapinto, Bortoleto, Gasly, Hadjar, Stroll, last car running. And then, like you said, Lando Norris, of course, crashed out, and Lawson and Albon didn't finish. And Hamilton apparently hit. I'm not going to call it a groundhog. What type of? Do you have the scientific name of this critter that these animals on track?
Furry little sucker, I think, is the scientific name. We call it marmot. We've been calling it a marmot for years. There's literally dozens and dozens of these creatures that live out there on the Ile Notre Dame in the St. Lawrence River. And they can be a nuisance during the race.
Yeah, apparently Hamilton's car was damaged after that, and he complained on the radio.
Not as much as the rodent.
Yeah, very true. But 5-6 for Ferrari. That's kind of that's it's not where they want to be. And I know that lots of rumors flying around in the last week about Leclerc, and they're probably just that. But you never know about Leclerc not being happy in his team. But 5-6 is not going to get it done for Ferrari. They're not going to not going to move up the Constructors' Championship. I was going to check those right now, see if they're updated. But what did you think of Leclerc's race, Bob? I don't know how much you got to see of that.
We didn't see a lot of it, did we? It was, it was middling. He started in the middle of the top 10, finished in the middle of the top 10. He was 7th, finished 5th, got ahead of Hamilton, his teammate. But as you mentioned, Hamilton was damaged, and that hurt his performance. So, if you have a bad day and still finish with 2 cars in the top 10 in the points, it's not as bad as it may outwardly seem. I mean, obviously you want to win races, you want to maximize your points, but given everybody is operating against the juggernaut that is McLaren this year, it's not a bad day.
Yeah. And something went right for Ferrari. They continued their nice string of really fast pit stops. They had the fastest of the day. Hamilton had a 2.0 flat. I saw a 2.1 for Piastri. I saw a 2.1 for Leclerc. So 2 good pit stops for Ferrari. So they continued, I think, to lead the little unofficial championship for that. But so they're doing something right there. And, we might want to touch on, Chris and I touched on it on Wednesday. I always feel like we're going over the same ground. But if you haven't paid attention, there was a lot of rumor because of, I believe it was an Italian newspaper or Italian news outlet, I should say, talking about the possibility that Fred Vasseur may be leaving the team. And he came out very vociferously denying that, and even said that they're hurting the team. And when someone comes out the way Vasseur did, I really I tend to believe him rather than the rumor from the newspaper, the news outlet. I keep calling it a newspaper, Bob, but I don't have no idea what it was.
Who reads newspapers anymore?
That's my point. But
kids,
anyway,
do you know what a newspaper is? No, of course not.
So anyway, I don't. What's your take on that?
Well, you're right. It's trouble. For all the reasons Fred Vasseur said. Look, we got 1,200 people working in this factory. Everybody pushing, and to hear that the ship might, take a hit and the leadership might change and all that sort of thing, it really makes it more difficult for everybody wearing a Ferrari shirt. And Vasseur's, he's a veteran. He's been doing this his whole life. So you're not hurting his feelings. He knows how to handle it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But he is concerned that the rest of his core of Ferrari employees there in Maranello may not know how to handle it. This is an incredibly pressurized job. Everybody, from Fred Vasseur down to whoever, makes the tea in the shops at Maranello, nobody wants to be working in limbo when you're trying to do the best job you possibly can. So And plus the I should say the Italian media are notoriously three sheets to the wind as far as Ferrari. They know Ferrari will get eyeballs, will get attention, will sell magazines, and will get clicks on website and what have you. But that's cheap, I was in the press corps in Formula One long enough to know there were certain guys, and I say that deliberately because it's all men, or it was back in the 80s and 90s, who would show up, and you knew they would sit in a press conference and ask some ridiculous question just to get a rise out of somebody. I remember, well, I won't get into names. I don't even know where those people are these days, but you knew it was coming. And they weren't at every race. They just showed up at certain races. They tried to raise eyebrows and usually managed to do that. So it's a very volatile environment. And I think I talked about how, and I'm getting long-winded about this, and I don't mean to, but I talked about how Lance Stroll in Spain owed it to his team as a professional to tell them ahead of time, I might not be able to go, so that they can be prepared. You don't wait until your team is backed into a corner and can't put another driver in the car and say, I can't go. I think as a professional journalist, and I wish Chris Medland were on with us to talk about this, you have a responsibility to talk about the things that matter, and not make up stuff. I recall a journalist many years ago who told me that he had made up big chunks. He made up an entire interview with Kimi Räikkönen.
Said, that's ridiculous. Yeah, you can't do that, right? All right, well, guys, I hear Chris's mic lighting up, but we got to take a quick break and get a reset at the top of the hour. You're listening to Speed City F1. Back after these messages. All right, checking in on YouTube here, Mike Bowles. Oh, well, never cared for yellow endings. All right, there you go. Wah, wah, dad joke. Kevin Kelly, Oscar, 12 more points. Max, 18 plus, 155. North, 176. Oscar, 198. Then he corrected himself, 155. What else we got here? Mike Bowles, let's hit the like button. Thanks, Mike. And, we got a lot to talk about. And let's see. Good tension building at the end, Joe says. Marmot, he was filling in the blanks for me there. What? Oh, wow. The door of the studio just blew open apparently here. Casey, was that?
You see a little black dog.
Is that on air?
His name is Toto.
Anyway, we've had, it is getting awfully dark out here. Keep an eye out for tornadoes, Casey.
Well, at least we'll have the scoop.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. I think they have updated the points. Yeah.
Oh, he's putting
Casey's
putting a radar up on the. Oh, wow. That is a crazy front blasting through right now. Hope there's no hail. I'm usually good at protecting my car.
All hail.
All hail, break loose. Chris, we're going to do a quick reset at the top of the hour and then jump back into it. And I'm going to reset my own brain and get excited about it because there actually was plenty to talk about.
Sounds good. I'm trying to find a race control screen again because I don't know if you saw my tweet, but there could be some drivers in trouble.
Pourquoi?
A safety car infringement for.
There we go.
Well, I can explain it all then.
Yep.
I'm George Russell, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, gearheads, welcome to the show. We just watched George Russell win the Canadian Grand Prix. Fantastic race for George Russell. On pole, wins the race, finishes ahead of Max Verstappen and Kimi Antonelli on the podium. This is Jon Massengale with Bob Varsha and Chris Medland live out in Montreal. And Chris, you may have a little breaking news for us. Looks like could be some safety car infringements going on.
Potentially, yes. And I don't know if someone could maybe just explain it to me as I walk past. But Pierre Gasly is one of the drivers who is noted for potential safety car infringement, and I'm walking with an Alpine team member who has no idea what that means. They're shaking their head. Okay, well, Pierre's been noted for a safety car infringement along with Piastri, Antonelli, Leclerc, Ocon, Sainz, and Stroll.
It's not going to improve our position, I don't think, so we should be okay.
Thank you very much to a Alpine spokesperson there, who's just saying that it won't do much for them.
No mention of Verstappen, Chris.
No mention of Verstappen. So it's third and fourth there, Antonelli and Piastri.
Right.
Ocon, Leclerc, who was fifth as well, of course. The order they came up in on the screen was a bit odd. So Ocon, who was ninth, flagged. Sainz, who was 10th. Then Gasly was outside the top 10 quite comfortably, I believe, wasn't he, in the end? So was Lance Stroll. So just heading down now, trying to see what's going on. I might ask a few questions of people here, kind of off mic at times. So apologies if it seems a bit odd if and when I do that. But I'm just trying to work out if anyone knows exactly what the infringement is. Oscar Piastri is just doing his social media interview, which means he's skipped out quickly from media duties. Mm-hmm. And obviously we've got a lot to talk about with him. Although, to be honest, those McLaren drivers they play it quite smartly, don't they? They're just honest and upfront, and
that's the way to handle that, right? That's PR 101.
Yeah, look at Lando Norris. Huge error that is, really hugely costly. But in the heat of the moment, he didn't come out and start screaming at his teammate. He knew, like we all saw that on the replay. I believe you guys will agree with me, but tell me if I'm wrong. And thought, Lando, that's a huge error on your part. You've misjudged that, run into the back of him. And he straight away he goes, "Yep, my fault, all me. Really sorry, everyone." And that does diffuse the situation, doesn't it?
Yeah, I watched it from the helicopter view, and you couldn't really see because the wall was in the way. And I was like, "What did it look like?" Norris just ran in the back of Piastri. Then they showed the onboard, and sure enough, I couldn't really. I was like, I think, what'd you say, Bob? How in the world could he possibly have thought he could fit there?
Yeah, I mean, I realize in the heat of the moment, the closing speed is distracting and all that sort of thing. Yeah, but like you, at first I thought, oh my gosh, is this some combination of Oscar moving over on him, and is this going to be a huge deal? But once you saw it, Oscar was already over there, and basically, Lando tried to put a 6 foot wide car into a 5.5 foot wide space.
Oh, I think you're being generous, Bob. That was about 2.5 feet. There's ever a car space there, was there? But you're right. It's just so strange, actually. But I can see Lando now talking to the print media. They're all gathered around him, the back of the TV pen. I'm not sure he'll want to do a walk and talk off the back of that one, but I'll still put myself in position to see if I can catch anyone's eye. But yes, I know I just veered off slightly from the original question from John about that potential safety car infringement. When I left the media centre, so it was the last look I got at the race control screen, I waited for quite a while to see if they'd update it, and they didn't. So it just said noted at that point. Didn't say it was a full investigation, but the fact that it came through so late suggests that they were looking, and it got flagged by a team or by race control to the stewards, and they'll then work out if it's something that warrants a full investigation. And if it does, could mean a late night for us here.
Oh yeah, I hate that when we have the late after the race decisions like that could end up affecting the outcome. But yeah, I have to agree with you, Chris. That gap that Norris tried to go through was tiny. But you know what? I want to shift gears because I want to celebrate what we did see that was great, and that is great racing with Russell, Verstappen, and Antonelli. And, George Russell just right off the bat had a fantastic start. His reaction time was like, what was it, 600ths faster, which doesn't sound like a lot. But in reaction times, that is a mile and a half.
Half a tenth quicker than Verstappen.
Yeah.
Yeah, but 20% better, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it is a big difference in that sense. I was surprised by that too.
Yeah, and which gave him a nice little gap to start, and which sucked all the air out of the room for me anyway, because I was looking for that turn one battle. But yeah, I mean, honestly, he kind of never really looked back. There was plenty of tension, but it wasn't like they were battling wheel to wheel ever. So kudos to George Russell. What a great race.
Yeah, I think that was Red Bull reacting to the situation. Now, Verstappen took a few stabs at trying to get by George, and when it was pretty clear that it wasn't going to happen after 4 or 5 laps, he just kind of settled back and thought, okay, the race is going to come to me. I'll finish on the podium and be happy with that, unless something happens.
Yeah, I'll admit, I thought I'd seen Verstappen looking in such good shape off the line and in the first stint to that race that he just has dropped in thinking the Mercedes will fall off. They won't be able to keep this pace in this heat, and the race will come to me in that sense that he would take the lead. And it actually was that he was slowly sitting back because he didn't have the pace to stick with George. But you're right, fine margins. It's one of those, I call it frustrating races sometimes. It's hard to sell sometimes to fans because they think, well, nothing happened, that was dull. And it by the end of it, it kind of was, aside from the McLaren collision. But it's because it was so close. And that it was a 10th here, a 10th there. It was tense. And at any one moment, if someone made a little mistake or pushed a bit too hard, you were going to see a big change or a significant opportunity for someone to gain a position or lose a position. And in the end, because they all performed so well, a little bit like Japan, they just all pushed to the end and finished in that order. But it was still high quality driving.
Yeah, and that's what we want in our racing, isn't it? Okay, so maybe there weren't as many passes as you might find in a NASCAR race or something, but I thought there was a decent amount of passing, particularly back in the mid-pack. And as you point out, and rightly so, Chris, it's the potential. You see, this could happen right now. I mean, that's thrilling. That brings you to the edge of your seat. And if it doesn't happen, well, it wasn't on the cards, but occasionally it does.
Yep. And I agree with that. Good quality racing, I think, is the way you put it, Medland. And I agree with that. I think that, Bob, we want this. We don't want mayhem, as Jonathan would say. We don't want mayhem. Right. It was good racing. So, and by the way, I'd forgotten how fast. I was watching the top speeds at Montreal. Circuit Gilles Villeneuve was what I saw, at least 210 miles an hour, if not faster.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good top speed track here.
That is a very fast track, and it's bumpy along that straightaway. So, get out there in the interstate and go 210 miles an hour over the bumps, and you get some idea of what these guys are going through. And these stiffly sprung cars, 2 inches off the ground. It's really an incredible exercise.
Hey, Chris,
did you suggest people should drive 210 miles an hour on the interstate?
No,
the Autobahn. How about that?
Happens all the time here in Atlanta, but usually winds up in the trees.
Chris, Kimi Antonelli, third youngest to ever finish on the podium behind Max Verstappen. Massive storm here.
Oh, is that? Oh, wow.
There's Bob.
I love storms. Wish I was there.
Man, I all right, we are back live. We're sorry, everybody. We're having a giant storm here in Austin, Texas. And
Texas knows how to throw a storm.
Well, that is for sure. And in fact, I opened the blinds so I could see it, and I was like, okay, I'm going to shut those because I don't.
Right. I don't want to lose
in
my
Texas,
eyesight.
you never know if it's going to be giant hailstones to destroy my car in the parking lot or a tornado. But Casey assures me there's no tornadoes on the horizon. So we apologize for that. And just to make it even more painful, those listening, we need to go ahead and take our first break. So if you're ready, Casey.
Before you do that, John, let me see.
No, he's saying we can't do that yet. Hold on a second.
I'm not allowed to talk to Kimi Antonelli, sadly. He's walking and only waving.
Oh, Chris.
What a shame. It's worth a go.
Okay, well, dang, Chris, that would have been good timing. But how did he look? Did he have a giant smile?
He did have a big smile. He's like, the fans are making a lot of noise, it must be said. So I think they just come down from the podium. That's quite late, though, for them to get from the podium to where they are in the pit lane. And I'm wondering if George Russell was further back. But I'm just wandering down the pit lane to see if Toto Wolff might still be down here. Or if George is round 2.
I'll tell him if he doesn't talk to us, we're going to tell the police he was drinking illegally on the podium.
Yeah,
good point. Good point, well made. I do think they have contingency for that, genuinely. I think they get given sparkling water or something.
Really?
Similar.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
I know that, yeah.
Oh, great.
So he was...
Well, in that case, John, I think you are safe, though. Now, I cut you off dramatically thinking we're in for some fun there. Although I can see George Russell. So
hold on,
do we try?
Yeah, let's try.
Do we try? Oh, this could go terribly live on the radio, everybody. George is running. This could go even worse.
Come on, Chris.
Running.
You can do it. You can catch him.
Stepping. Oh, I don't want to do it on the run. Let's kind of see. Will he talk?
Come on, 60 seconds.
He's literally running, so we're not going to get him now.
Oh.
He's run past me. I think they've had to hurry up that they are late to get to the press conference based on that. Although
Tell him we're going to go. We're going to go talk to his girlfriend.
Here we go. We've got Elio Castroneves here.
Oh, really?
Climbing the Montreal fence. It's very cool. And it's going down very well, I can tell you that. So I don't think I can get to him.
Well,
your signal is perfect, by the way.
Phone calls.
He's going the wrong way now. He's getting told off for going the wrong way.
Oh, I love big time sports.
There we go.
I'm still stalking him, trying to. He's still ignoring people. Never mind. The FA are trying to cajole him somewhere, and they're losing that fight. It's quite entertaining. Wow, well, great energy, even if there's no interview at the end of it.
Tell him we're going to talk to his girlfriend if he doesn't talk to us.
I've been told that there's a good chance of getting George if he won, but it was something that might have to wait till after the press conference. So after that many delays and false starts, John, you're free to get a break in.
All right, well, let's do it. Let's get a break in right now. You're listening to Speed City. Back after these messages. I just now got an alert on my phone. There could be rain starting in your area soon.
Right.
It's like, what
There's a good chance of a severe.
Yeah. Jeez.
That's
We never
hilarious.
lost complete power. Like my computer never stopped.
Well, your computer battery would back you
No.
up.
Yeah, it wasn't my battery. It was the PC. My battery, my laptop stayed up, but also Casey's studio PC stayed up.
Uh-huh. Right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Yeah, but hey, thanks, TW. He says, be safe. We apparently we just have lightning is probably what's causing everything. Yeah, lightning and wind, no tornadoes. Thank goodness. And you know what? I just realized, Casey, I parked under the parking garage for some reason today. I brought my old car, but
Brought your beater?
I brought my beater. Yep, the Beamer beater.
Love
The one that won't die with 297,000 or 92,000, I think.
Unlike mine.
I love my
As
old
soon as
beater.
the warranty wore off, parts started falling off the thing.
I think I'm.
Well, for everybody on YouTube, sorry, I just want to find out, did we stay up? Did you have to put up with Bob and I rambling away while the rest of them were dealing with storms?
Yeah, I don't know
You'll
if
have
they
to tell
could.
me what the comments say, guys.
Yeah, let us know did we stay? How much of the time did we stay up? Because I think I was gone for several minutes apparently.
Would the YouTubers know?
Yeah, I'm checking with the YouTubers just to see.
Okay.
Yeah, be what they heard of us, Bob, if anything.
Mm-hmm.
How long were we off Sirius, Casey? Oh, 2 minutes? Okay, that's not bad. All right, let me get this live read ready.
Hello, I'm Jenny Gow from BBC F1. You are listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
In business, they say you can have better, cheaper, or faster, but you only get to pick two. What if you could have all three at the same time? That's exactly what Cohere, Thomson Reuters, and Specialized Bikes have since they upgraded to the next generation of the cloud, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. OCI is the blazing fast platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs, where you can run any workload in a high availability, consistently high performance environment and spend less than you would with other clouds. How is it faster? OCI's block storage gives you more operations per second. Cheaper? OCI costs up to 50% less for compute, 70% less for storage, and 80% less for networking. Better? In test after test, OCI customers report lower latency and higher bandwidth versus other clouds. This is the cloud built for AI and all your biggest workloads. Right now, with zero commitment, try OCI for free. Head to oracle.com/formula. That is oracle.com/formula. All right, welcome back. We got power in the studio. The lightning has stopped, and we are talking Formula One Canadian Grand Prix. And we've talked all about what the front of the grid, but I want to jump down a little bit and talk about Fernando Alonso. Second points in a row in P7. What do you think, Chris? Oh,
Great job from him. He's been so impressive in the way that he's actually performed for most of the season and just not had the results, had he? But I just think we saw absolutely nail it yesterday. A lot of drivers we can say this about, I think, absolutely nailing it yesterday, and that's setting them up today and just executing them today and getting everything that they possibly could out of it. Bit of a shame again, in the same way of the front row fight, we didn't get more drama on row 3, but it certainly wasn't to the detriment of Fernando's result in the end, was it?
Yeah, and like we heard in the pre-show, since the upgrade, was the upgrade right before the Spanish Grand Prix, or no? It was may have been the race before.
It was at Imola, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. But anyway,
it was at Imola.
It was at Imola, yeah. But they've looked good since then, and that's really encouraging. To we saw Alonso do so well a couple of years ago, and last year just kind of middle of the pack. But great to see Alonso with how old is Alonso now? 44, I believe. 43 for sure. So fantastic.
What was that stat
43.
you had yesterday?
43.
43.
Yeah. Alonso and Hamilton together is worth like 84 years.
83.
83
Yeah,
years.
combined age of 83 years old.
Yeah, that's a stunning stat.
Yeah, and that's Richard Petty.
Yep.
Um,
Another good story, Nico Hülkenberg in the Stake Sauber, finishing P8. I know we had a couple of cars that didn't finish, but Lando would have finished ahead of both of them, but Lawson probably wouldn't have, but Albon maybe, but still, Hülkenberg in the points in P8. And you know what? We haven't talked about this at all, but Ocon, points for the Haas team on their 200th Grand Prix, finishes P9. Got to celebrate that, right?
Yeah. Where'd Bartolotto finish?
Bartolotto finished 14th. In 14th. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so Hülkenberg's race went a long way toward confirming the potential that he showed in Spain, where he finished 5th. And, we all thought, boy, what are they feeding the Sauber boys today? And he came through with another good performance, even though he didn't qualify well. And maybe because he didn't qualify well, it makes his result that much more eyebrow raising.
Yeah.
The point I wanted to make about Alonso and that car is that Alonso has this, with total respect, I'll say, has this Chicken Little kind of approach. The sky is falling. The car, it can't be fixed. We're going to have these problems all the way through the end of the season. There's a write-off. Let's move on to 2026, yada, yada, yada. And then he comes out and does something like this, in 4 races. I think he scored 3 times. He's qualifying, punching well above his weight in qualifying based on a comparison with what his teammate is able to do with that car. I got to think that that's a huge boost for the team. And hopefully for Adrian Newey, who seems to admire Alonso and, gives everybody more incentive, like we talked about with Ferrari and Fred Vasseur saying, leave my team alone because the emotions are fragile and we need these people to be working with as much energy and optimism as they can. So I think what Alonso is able to do with that car goes a long way.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a really good point. And Chris brought that up yesterday about, if somebody's going to say something, especially somebody in some sort of journalist position, and I don't know what their outlet was, how credible it was, is really what I'm saying. But you need to be careful. Chris, just checking in with you. I hear a little bit of action going along around you. What's happening? He's dropped off.
That was me going down to Ferrari, actually. I was trying to get Fred Vasseur, but I was a bit too late. Hopefully I'm still here.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, we got you.
I was trying to see if I could get Ferrari, but Fred was too late. But then I was asking the team about this potential safety car infringement stuff, and they were unaware of it completely. So they didn't respond to that. They not didn't respond, but they were like, don't know anything about that. Can you send us it so we can keep an eye on it and check? That suggests it hasn't turned into a full investigation. I can't be certain of that, but that's what I would take from that it is likely that they've already been looked at and decided, no, there's no case to answer here. But for so many drivers to be flagged, that could go one of 2 ways. It means either there was one trigger point that led to a lot of them doing something wrong, or that it was all something very subtle and there's an explanation for it. So I'm actually sending that to Ferrari as we speak, which is why my multitasking is so terrible. But they will let me know if they hear anything. But that was news to their press officer.
Okay. And
there is one, sorry, just got to add, there was a and summons are coming through now. There is an investigation going on with 2 cars finished in the points, which was Esteban Ocon and Carlos Sainz. So it was for alleged driving erratically, which I believe relates to Ocon doing that driving in 9th place ahead of Sainz in 10th. So there could still be, car 31 being Ocon driving erratically, there could still be a change to the points regardless.
Yeah, and I was just thinking that it was Williams good to salvage something out of this weekend, and that could be taken away from them, even though it was just a single point.
Yeah, well, I need to check. Where was Ollie at the end of that race? Would he stand?
He's at 11th. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you said Williams. But yeah, both. In that case. Yeah. Because I think if Carlos is to then gain, then maybe so too is Ollie. So it might not actually hurt either team at all too much.
Yeah. Of course, Ocon, in the other Haas, up in 9th. So yes.
Speaking of teams. Yeah, I'm just looking at the the constructors' standings. McLaren is over the hill and far away on 374 points, but then Mercedes has 199. Ferrari is 16 points back in 3rd, and Red Bull is another 19 points back in 4th. So, granted, those top 4 teams are pulling away from the field, but those 3 with such great resumes, Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull, are really locked in a very tough fight for second in the Constructors' Championship. And here we are 10 races into a 24-race season.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of fireworks to come there, I think.
Yeah, we got 14 races left in 2020. That was almost a full season. So there's plenty of racing left. What about
that's one of the things that a lot of the team bosses do say, don't they, when they're asked about, do you turn your attentions to next year? Well, can you really write it off when you have so long to go? Right. When you could turn it around so much? I don't think you do. So that's why you quite often find that they're trying to keep developments coming, even if it's going to be lesser this year. Because if you bring something, like, say, for example, Sauber did at the last race, look at the points they've scored over the last 2. That's totally changed the picture for their season. And in fact, you know what? I keep hanging around trying to get Toto Wolff, which I'm going to have to wait a little bit for, but I don't want to go too far from him. But let me go and see if anyone's chatting at Sauber, because surely I bothered Jonathan Wheatley a lot in Spain, but he must be a happy man again today with that result.
Yeah, for sure. And think about this, to your point, Bob. So right now, Red Bull's in 4th, right? But what if they were to somehow pull that from 4th to 2nd at the end of the year? How many millions of dollars would that be worth? Same thing for Ferrari in 3rd. If they were to move to 2nd, every one of those positions, especially at that end of the standings, that's going to be millions of dollars.
Yeah. And I keep going back to this point. You've also got sponsors who are investing millions of dollars, and you can't just tell them, okay, we're done. We're going to look ahead till next year.
Yeah.
In the meantime, your logo will ride around on a car and
that's a great point. Yeah. It's like, hey, wait a minute.
Not what they're looking for.
They're going, I don't care about next year. I paid for sponsorship this year.
That's right. Right now. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Chris, you have any luck down there?
Yeah, he's having a chat right now, but I've caught his eye. I don't know if it means it will turn into anything. I've actually just made the massive faux pas, huge faux pas, walked straight into the back of the F1 TV setup. Oh. So now everyone who saw me just pop up once earlier today, like, there he is. What's he doing? Where is he going? I meant to stay out of that shot, and I've just ruined it. But never mind.
So, well, Chris, was the Speed City mic cube visible? That's all I care about.
Oh yes, of course it is. Of course it is.
Right. You just walk in there and said, I thought someone said my name.
So I thought about doing that yesterday, but at the time that I caught Laura Winter's eye, she had a different face on that suggested she was dealing with something. Jonathan Wheatley, I haven't spoken to you yet this weekend, which is just so unusual for us over the last 2 races, but more points for Sauber with Nico Hülkenberg. How pleased are you with that race?
I'm really, really, really pleased. It was a strong team performance all round again, 2 weeks in a row. All the right conversations being had in the pit wall, and Mattia and the team back in Hinwil have given us a racing car now. Nico drove again with an incredible measured race. He hung back. He saw that incident happening on lap 1. Made 2 positions and really held it to the end. Just delivered a flawless race. And Gabriel, again, we started on the hard tyre with him. He delivered, I don't know how many laps he did on that, 44 laps or something or other. 2 clean pit stops. And we come out of here with 4 more points.
Yeah, I mean, you're new to the team principal role, but you're not new to, obviously, the fluctuations of a Formula One season. How important actually was this result and backing up what you did in Spain to show that you can compete at different circuits?
I think every single point is massively important. This is not a circuit we expected to suit the car. I mean, it didn't mean that it wouldn't suit the track, but we didn't think it would play to our strengths. But again, both drivers had a racing car under them today. And again, we were able to capitalise on that.
Now, I've got a question that you might not know the answer to, but I saw a number of drivers were noted by race control after the race for a safety car infringement. I don't know if you saw that and if that's turned into anything more.
Not that I'm aware of, and I didn't notice it, no.
Okay, none of your drivers are involved, I can tell you that, but about 4 in front of them were. So, it could have been good news for you, but that sounds like it's gone quiet, so it must have been cleared. But we're heading to Austria next for a doubleheader, Austria-Silverstone, talking about tracks that might suit the car. Either of those think suited to the machinery you have now?
Yeah, I think they're a little bit more in the performance window of our car. The corners there are the ones that we certainly, I think we can look back on Barcelona and say that it's more in the wheelhouse of this particular car. We're understanding it more and more. And like I say, the team at the factory, they were putting performance on the car. I mean, it's a nice position to be in.
Does it change your targets heading into the rest of the season now? Is it like points become a regular target?
Well, they're the regular target anyway. That's why we're here and doing what we're doing. Look, I think we were in a position to capitalise today, and that's what we've got to do. We've got to be in a position to capitalise on that. And we need to do everything right. We need to do the basics right. We need to do everything right. And I think this weekend we got nearly everything right.
Well, great job done. And I hope for your sake this time your flights haven't been cancelled tonight.
No. I'm off to New York.
Right, well, see you there. F1 film premiere. Thank you very much, Jonathan. It's Jonathan Wheatley, the team principal of Sauber.
And that Sauber team, speaking about the constructors' point still, Haas in 6th, Racing Bulls in 7th, Aston Martin in 8th, and the team we just heard from, Kick Sauber, in 9th, covered by 8 points in the Constructors' Championship. So it's still all to play for.
Yeah, only 2 points behind. Sauber's only 2 points behind Aston Martin, who's only 6 points behind Racing Bulls, who's tied with Haas. So, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that could not be any tighter. Just looking down today's
interestingly, though, we say that positively, as we should, but it is a positive thing. But Sauber were ahead of Aston Martin before today, as a result of the result they had in Spain. So actually, Alonso's result is what has then taken Aston Martin back ahead, and that's kind of
it's
strange,
weird.
Isn't it? We're looking at everyone doing well. There's points everywhere. Haas the same, scoring again. I think is good. I was just looking for Ayo Komatsu, but no sign of him right now. So you've got all these teams where you can look at a positive, but then you look at the fluctuations in the standings and you think, are they happy today or are they not happy?
Yeah. Hey, what about Yuki Tsunoda?
Their heads are probably still spinning.
Finishing 12th, Bob Varsha. Not a bad effort, I suppose, considering where he started.
Yeah, good on him. He's desperately trying to make up ground in these very, very difficult times for guys running alongside Max Verstappen. I don't know if anybody watched yesterday's F1 TV Pro broadcast. They had Nico Rosberg on there as a commentator, and he was asked by the lead commentator, if you got the call from Red Bull, they were talking about Isaac Hadjar. If you got the call, what would you say? And Nico did not hesitate 1 second, and he said, I tell him no, I don't want that seat. You don't want to be Max Verstappen's teammate in the current Red Bull situation. I thought that really spoke volumes for a guy who's been there, done that.
Wow.
And that's the turmoil that Yuki finds himself in. And keep in mind, this was a guy who came over from Japan, didn't speak great English, wasn't in great physical shape, but he has worked his way
Bob, I always have to cut you off, don't I?
Well,
but I'm going to do it again because I've got Toto Wolff here. And Toto, we spoke yesterday and you weren't quite so positive that today would turn into a victory. Here you are, first and third. How pleased are you with that performance?
Very pleased indeed, because it was a victory on merit. It wasn't like a strategic wonder or on a particular tire sets. It was throughout the race. We were just there. George, faultless. Kimi, an amazing race. So from a team's perspective, I'm really happy.
Was it one of George's most complete weekends because he did the job yesterday and today?
Yeah, clearly. For me, his best weekend so far with Mercedes.
That's good for contract talks. But let's go to Kimi then. Like third place, as you say, and he got that with overtaking the championship leader on track as well, getting his elbows out. How impressed are you with his maturity today?
We never doubted the talent, but the pressure in Formula One is on a different level compared to junior series. And today he withheld the pressure with the two McLarens behind him, and splendid performance, another box tick. And I think in terms of also taking the pressure off him, it's good.
Is it right that he's got to go and do some exams this week?
Yeah, well, you've got to finish your school, no?
Yeah, that's a reminder of his age. But just finally, for the team, how big a result is this for the team? Because you've had a strong start to the season, but maybe not had the highs that you had at times last year.
Yeah, exactly. Beat the monkeys off the back if you win your first race in the season, and that's good.
Are there more on the cards, do you think?
Yeah, but we got to stay humble. The next race is a different track layout, different asphalt. That could be more difficult.
All right, well done this weekend. Thank you, Toto.
I was waiting for him.
Is he going to go to prom?
I was waiting for Toto Wolff to say a different temperature. It's the first thing it's all I can't think of anything else when I think of Mercedes right now. But you know what? We should talk about even more, in my mind, right now about Antonelli after what Toto Wolff said. Just the pressure. Yes, today the Mercedes car was great. Obviously, right? The temperatures were right. Russell was fast, and Antonelli was fast. But you don't just have a car that, especially with a chessboard of a race like there was today, right? The pressure and everything else to finish on the podium. Fantastic. Well, we got to take a break, guys. Let's get our second break in, and we'll be back right after these messages. All right, still live on YouTube. And Chris, where are you going to go next?
McLaren. They're a talking point, aren't they? Let's see if Andrea Stella's around.
Yeah, see if anybody will talk. I bet they will. Just like you said earlier, they handled it immediately. Or, give full credit to Lando, like you said. He came right out. And maybe the team will do the same thing.
Didn't see Zach or any video of Zach. Is he there or is he at the
Le Mans or
IndyCar race in St. Louis? Or
no, he was at Le Mans. Yeah, he was down at Le Mans because they announced their partnership with United Autosport that's created their WEC team.
Hypercar?
Yes, exactly. And then they also unveiled that hypercar. So it was a big weekend for him. So he was down in France. And I think it may be actually, unless he wants to come to the US soon. I don't know if he's coming for the movie premiere, which is tomorrow night. But otherwise, it means he can stay in Europe because you've got such a long run of races there.
Are you going to that premiere?
I am, yes. I'm one of a number that will be.
What are you wearing?
I don't.
Who are you wearing?
No idea. I don't get red carpet access. I can tell you that.
Bob, it's who are you wearing, not what are you wearing.
That's true. I'm sorry. Since Joan Rivers died, I just don't know.
You can't keep up with it anymore. Your source is gone.
Yeah, that's right.
I definitely hear thunder. It's still bad.
You guys never been in a storm before?
Well, it's just when you can't see anything, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
And hey, this is Texas. I'm serious about that. You constantly worry about tornadoes and hail
and flooding, apparently.
And flooding for sure.
Yeah.
The latest update I have from the FIA is that they think everything's still being reviewed in terms of safety car infringements. They're not totally certain because the person I've asked is managing the press conference right now, but they think it's still being reviewed.
All right, here we go.
Hi guys, this is Prix and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Right now, with zero commitment, try Oracle Cloud Infrastructure for free. Head to oracle.com/formula, oracle.com/formula. All right, welcome back to Speed City. We've been talking about the Canadian Grand Prix, all the stories coming out of that, and I'm just moving down the list. And Bob, in our show doc, you had mentioned about Franco Colapinto fighting for his F1 future. We touched on it a little bit, but talk a little bit more about that while Chris is out there. Chris, by the way, before you go, Bob, Chris, where are you? You're hunting McLaren still?
Yes, I just walked into their hospitality unit where Andrea Stella's press session has just finished. And this will depend on the mood he's in right now because he's spoken a lot. And I'm just going to put myself in his eye line and see if it's one of those where he rolls his eyes, or one of those where he's like, okay, I'll answer a couple of questions. But I'm not too sure, to be honest, on this occasion. He's just doing a bit of a debrief with Mark Hughes from the Race and Motorsport magazine. If anyone reads any of those outlets.
Yep.
So
yeah, great.
Just having a chin wag and disappearing quickly. So I can tell you, no shot at that one.
Oh.
Swing and a miss from me.
Well, I wanted to check before I went to Bob this time, so he could finish a thought.
Right. That would be the way to make sure we got Andrea.
I could have cut him off, couldn't I?
Yeah. I start talking, we get Andrea.
Definitely interrupted. Mm-hmm. Go on then. Go on. I'll tell you what, Bob. Try it, because I think someone's just going to check if he will come back.
Okay. Franco Colapinto. Yeah, man. We're following the rumors that, that like all the young drivers right now, you just don't get a lot of time to perform. And that not only includes not scoring, not adding points to your team's total, but bending the race car, as Chip Ganassi likes to say. You don't want to crash. You don't want to cause a lot of damage. That was sort of Colapinto's undoing at Williams last year. And then he became a reserve driver and then replaced Jack Doohan, who had a handful of Grand Prix and then got the heave-ho. So, all of these rookies, with the possible exception of Kimi Antonelli, they know the sword of Damocles is hanging over their heads, and they have got to produce, and they've got to produce now, which never used to be the case before. And absent testing, which the teams don't get anymore in the name of cost containment, it's just so difficult for these guys, no matter how successful they were at the junior levels.
Okay,
and we've got a line of Formula 2 champions out there lined up for their Formula 1 opportunities.
Okay, Bob, this is the second. I'm going to have to, what is it? Sword of Damocles. I'm looking that one up now. Let's see.
Yeah,
Chris, this is the second time I'm having to look up something on the internet while Bob is, his giant brain is wowing us.
Well, to be fair, he gave it a great shot, but Andrea did not return, so it failed this time. But what didn't fail was my emails to tell me that he's also going to have to get a stewards, or at least a team representative, because as much as it will pain them, his two drivers did collide, and therefore the stewards are investigating Lando Norris for hitting Oscar Piastri. So obviously they go and have a chat. Normally, I think that's a no further action because the car that caused the collision, got the most damage, was out the race. But you never know. So that's another 40 minutes as well they're meant to go. So I just saw Piastri already changed, getting a drink, and I think he's been told he has to wait because another 40 minutes that he has to go to the stewards himself just to give his side of the situation.
What was he getting? Long Island iced tea?
Right.
I know he's been very plain and grabbing what was a personalized water bottle that was in a fridge just outside the hospitality unit here, where they do have 2 champagne glasses left and an open bottle of champagne. But I'm a professional; I'm not touching it.
I had to struggle to come up with the name of a drink. My brain was like, "What's the name of a drink?" Because a beer.
Well, that is a tip for all you young drivers there. Do not go to see the stewards with a buzz.
Yeah,
not good form.
Don't go to the principal's office drunk, is what you're saying.
And it just occurred to me, we were talking about the fact that Derek Warwick was suspended as the driver steward for this weekend. He was replaced by Enrique Bernoldi, a former Formula One driver, except Bernoldi was not on the scene this weekend. He's doing his job from the Iron Dome in Geneva, Switzerland, where all the video is reviewed and everything. So that may add to the length of time it's going to take for them to decide, whose wrist to slap.
Bernoldi, the famous aerodynamicist, the Bernoldi principle?
No.
Oh, that's Bernoulli?
No.
Okay, sorry.
Bernoulli.
Yes.
Yeah.
Chris, what do you got?
That's a very
What's
good
happening?
point you make there, Bob. I must admit, because that means I've totally blanked Laura Winter was trying to wave as she left, and now I felt really bad. So I was just thinking of the fact that if you've got someone in the remote operations center in Geneva, they're going to be seeing things differently in terms of what's going on in the race potentially that they might pick up on. So this safety car infringement stuff, if it is still running, as I said in the break, actually, for anyone who won't have heard, the FIA media delegate said to me they think it's still ongoing. It's still being reviewed, so it's not an investigation yet, but it's still being looked at. And if it is, then it could turn into something else. But maybe Bernoldi, being in Geneva, then saw something and flagged it to the additional support they have there in the remote operations center. So it could have led to a slightly different way of working and more things being picked up too.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
Yep. Chris, where are you right now? Still McLaren?
Yeah, I'm still outside McLaren. One, I'm trying to very slowly, but eventually tweet that the two McLaren drivers have to go to the stewards tonight as a result of what happened. But two, I thought the longer I lingered here, more likely it was that Stella might just stroll out at the right time and take pity on me. But that's not looking all that likely right now.
Well, I know it's not been long since the last one, but we do need to get one final break in. Should we do it now?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah,
right,
why not?
Let's do it. All right, we'll be back right after these messages. All right, is anybody awake on YouTube? Let's go back and check it out. There we go. They're still there. Wow, there's Jesse Mesa. He's been here before, joined late, but have y'all discussed this? Was a repeat of Canada GP 2011 we have not, but I saw a tweet about that, and it was very similar, wasn't it? Thanks, Jesse, for reminding us of that. Bob, do you remember that when the two McLarens came together, 2011?
Yeah, Hamilton.
Probably would have been Hamilton.
Yeah, it would have been Hamilton and Jenson Button, I think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the identical collision. Sorry, I just tuned into what you guys were saying. Yeah, exactly same thing in the wet. Although Button at least got his car kind of alongside enough to get wedged in there by Hamilton. So I think in the end, or the other way around, sorry, wasn't it? Button wedged Hamilton's car in there, and it meant Hamilton retired and Button got the puncture. I think Button got the penalty for that. It was the lead car moving when another car was alongside. I can't see that being the case this time around.
No.
Yeah, very close to identical, wasn't it?
Yeah, someone will do a good video edit, won't they? They'll put them side by side.
Yeah. Was it wet? Did I see that picture right? I'm trying to remember that.
Correct. Yeah, 2011. That was the crazy wet race.
Yeah.
Is that the race that went on for 4 hours?
Yeah, just over. And I covered that one remotely for ESPN, which meant I was on my own in an office in Hammersmith until about 3 a.m. working Monday morning. And when you leave at 3 a.m. on Monday morning in Hammersmith, you see all sorts of sights that think you were part of the more fun night that they've had.
Looks like sunset outside here. The clouds are so thick. Todd Dauber, he's awake. And Kevin Kelly confirmed Hamilton Button. Yep.
This race
Good
is
to see all you folks.
You got to be awake.
Give us some likes, everybody. I don't know if most people apparently watch us on their televisions, so it's not as easy to do a like. All right, here we go. Come back.
Hi, this is Jay Leno from JayLenosGarage.com, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, welcome back. I want to circle back around to Max Verstappen. And Chris, do you think that...
I don't need to hear it again. It's really pissing me off.
Do you think that... good job, Casey. I did not cue up Casey to do that. Do you think that Max changed his racing style today with his point situation?
No, I don't actually. I think he didn't really get a chance. As we mentioned, he didn't get the greatest start compared to George, so he never had a shot at overtaking him. I think he played it quite smartly with Piastri, who could have maybe had a run at him on the outside exit of turn 2. And he just eased his car slightly wider at that point, just to make it clear that that wasn't an option. And it was just clever driving, but that's what gave Antonelli a chance to have a run at Piastri as well. And then add in on top of that, I think from every other point, he never was really within range to try and overtake. He couldn't do anything racy. So I think we still saw him pushing as hard as he normally would. It was kind of, for him, the perfect race. Until, actually, this is a moment we haven't discussed yet, is it? And it didn't come up as getting looked at, but it was quite entertaining. The mind games, or gamesmanship as it was described, from George Russell behind the safety car, where he saw that Verstappen had pulled partially alongside him on one side. And you're not meant to do that anyway. But then he thought, I'll take advantage of this. Slams on the brakes. So Verstappen goes sailing by. And then Verstappen has to drop back in behind. And it's led to Verstappen saying, George is just driving erratically. George going, Max just overtook me on the safety car. Obviously, if you get done for overtaking on the safety car, there would be a penalty point with that. So I think there was a bit of gamesmanship going on, like legitimately. But maybe also just a warning to Max, because if there had been a restart, it's George saying, "Hey, I'm willing to play any and every game I need to, So you're going to have to think twice about how much you want to risk. But to me, again, that would show me that George thought, yeah, Max will fight me just as hard. He won't let me have this easy. So no, I think we got the same Max Verstappen as usual. Just the race didn't quite allow him to get his elbows out too much.
Yeah, it didn't come to him. We talked all about, I have been going on about the Mercedes cars fast because of the temperature. But Chris, they also had some upgrades coming into this weekend. They had an update to the floor edge, was designed to increase mass flow under the forward floor, and then also new brake duct configuration. And Toto didn't, he seemed to be at least optimistic about the next race in Austria. I mean, you never know, right?
No, I mean, certainly not. And if we think of how the weather can be in Austria, I mean, I know I'm going back to the UK later this week to really high temperatures, but we've had pretty low ones as well in the past. And Austria's a race that they were solid last year, if unspectacular, but then, let's be fair, inherited a win when Verstappen and Norris came together. But that kicked off a really competitive run for Mercedes, because then they went to Silverstone. It was kind of typical British summer, cooler weather, smooth track, high-speed corners, suited the car beautifully. And it should have been a 1-2 there. In the end, it was just a win for Lewis Hamilton with Russell retiring. And then 2 races later, we're in Belgium. Again, it was cooler. And Mercedes were in the mix for that one and really should have won it with a 1-2. But they had to give that one up, didn't they, as a result of Russell getting disqualified for being underweight, but Hamilton then inheriting the win as a result. But so 3 out of 4 over this next spell of 4 races last year, I think is the reason they're optimistic.
Yeah. Hey, I just saw some pretty close to breaking news. It looks like during the race, Renault boss De Meo quits. And this is a story on Reuters. Says he will lead Gucci-owned Kering. So yes, Chief Executive Luca De Meo is leaving the French carmaker to pursue new challenges, as they say. That's different from the spend time with my family. That's very similar in it says new
pursue other interests.
Yes.
He can't quit. He's not on the Formula One team. Who does he think he is quitting?
Yeah, he can't do that right in the middle of a race.
Yeah.
But anyway, had you heard anything about that, Chris?
No, that's a brand new one to me.
Yeah.
So that is big news as well. So the breaking news noise was very much needed. Good
noise.
That almost felt like a good time to bury. Yeah, sorry, I was doing that while reading. I was losing my words. But that was you could say a good time to bury bad news, couldn't you? That in terms of from a motorsport perspective, most people aren't going to quite have picked up on it until it's a bit too late. And then there's 2 weeks to the next race in Europe. So. Yeah, that is big, though, because that's someone who sets the direction for that whole company, and that includes the Alpine F1 team, which has had such an uncertain future.
Yeah, we cannot forget.
Where does
the money flows
fit into this?
Where does what?
Where does Flavio Briatore fit into all of this?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I was going to say, you can't forget all the money. Like, I think of Audi, right? They've had some struggles. The whole car industry's had struggles, and that's, that's another good reason to go pursue new challenges in another industry, as Luca De Meo is doing. But the whole car industry is struggling right now and deciding whether they're going to go electric or not. I think it was this week Dodge announced, but wait, you can get a Hemi and a Charger and a Challenger or whatever next year. So, they kind of always left that hanging, right? They made it this new electric Charger where you could still get a Hemi inside of it. And sure enough, apparently you can. So, we can't forget that the money, how that flows to our sport.
You saw that nugget I put in the show doc about Ford saying there has to be a degree of electrification in Formula One because that's why we're here, which adds further heft to that argument that the sport revolves around what the manufacturers want, and they want hybrids, they want electrification, and that's Ford saying that's why we're here. And, if it were otherwise, we might not be here.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, unless you have, let me see if Casey, can we get the interview Susie Wolff ready? Yeah, he's got it. So, Chris, you want to set this up real quick? It's just a couple minutes, but you caught up with Susie Wolff?
Sure thing, yeah, I did, because we had a very busy race weekend here in Montreal in terms of F1 Academy, because they put 3 races on. We had anyone who went to the Miami Grand Prix or followed it would have seen that one race had to get cancelled there because of the weather. speaking of the storms you're facing right now, that torrential downpour that hit Montreal, get my cities right in a minute. Torrential downpour that hit Miami before the race on the Sunday meant they couldn't do race 2. So they added one here to make up for it, and which I think is a good move. But it did mean they were packing them in. And ahead of race 2, I went out onto the grid to speak to Susie Wolff just about the state of things with the championship, but also the new Netflix documentary that's just come out. So I've got Susie Wolff here, the Managing Director of F1 Academy, at the front of the F1 Academy grid. And we're into year 3, but the first visit here in Montreal. How are you finding it so far?
Well, I love this race weekend, and to see F1 Academy racing here, so much love from the fans, it's fantastic.
And obviously you announced an extension to the agreement to race here earlier today till 2028. Also racing in Miami, going to race in Vegas this season. How important is it to focus on growth in North America too?
Well, I think women's sport is having a real moment here in North America, and we want to be part of that momentum. There's been a lot of interest from the commercial side to be in the US, and just so much of a fan base here. So for us, it's always important to be racing on this continent.
Well, not only racing here though, and there's a lot of interest coming from the new docuseries F1 The Academy. How's the reaction been to that so far?
Well, I hope lots of you have watched it. The reaction has been incredible, and we're so grateful to have that platform to share our stories, to really show the drama behind the scenes, the human stories. It's not just about the racing, it's about these young women coming out here and trying to prove themselves in what's still perceived as quite a male-dominated world.
Well, I wanted to pick up on that a bit actually, about the series itself. Like, what's the aim of it? Is it to really improve the platform for the drivers here, or is it to inspire more girls to get into racing, or is it both?
I think it's both, but for me, ultimately, breaking down the accessibility to this sport and showing that it's no longer a man's world, inspiring and giving these young women the platform to be role models for the next generation, hugely important.
Well, let's focus a bit on this season, though, as well. 4 different winners so far this year. Dorian Pan, the championship leader at this stage as we stand here on the grid ahead of race 2. How much are you enjoying the competitiveness of the year?
Well, the race this morning, I've never seen so much drama in one race, so fantastic racing to watch. It's going to be a tough title fight, I think, probably down to the last round, but certainly, yeah, the level is really high and the racing is great.
And I know you're the F1 Academy Managing Director, but it's not just about this series, is it? We've seen Abby Pulling, the champion, step up, Bianca Bustamante as well to GB3. How important has it been to see that progression continue for these girls?
We're absolutely here to see the most talented progress onwards and upwards in the sport. Obviously, it's not segregated, so they have to go and race against the best men as well as the best women, but we are here to give them every chance we can of success.
And just finally, in your role though, I want to know, does it feel like everything feels like it's heading in the right direction? Like I said, year 3, more expansion. This is a lively grid.
I won't lie, there's been tough days. It's taken a long time to get where we are, but I am so grateful because this is the vision that I had in my head and more. So we're in a great place and we've got more ambitions for the future.
Wow, Chris, that was a lively grid, as you put it. That was super busy sounding.
But fireworks. And congratulations to Chloe Chambers, who won race 3.
Yeah,
she did. Yeah, really good win for her. It was a messy race 3 in the end. Lots of safety cars today. Race 2 that we were just on the grid for there was really clean, really good race. The first race, again, a bit messy earlier on Saturday. So I think packing in so much on a track that's obviously neutral to the drivers as well did mean that it was a little bit tricky at times for them to keep it clean. I'm just watching Carlos Sainz and Esteban Ocon walking the other way down the paddock having a chat because they've been to see the stewards because of that incident with Ocon potentially driving erratically. They seem to be in good enough terms. I mean, I believe it's Netflix, but if it's not, it's a whole Haas camera crew recording everything. So whatever they're saying, we're going to find out eventually. But the fact they're chatting together and there's a Williams team manager walking with them, I don't think it looks too feisty, but we'll see if Sainz has managed to talk his way into an extra point. Back to F1 Academy, though. It was very impressive, but I was amazed at how busy the grid was. Certainly at the front end of it was hard to see towards the back. And yeah, they had a DJ on there. They had a mascot on there that was having a good old dance, but it did create a lot of energy. And the grandstands were packed. That was great. So that was really good to see. And that's encouraging that people are watching that racing because it is fun to watch. Just want to finally, my last point, that's a terrible pun, but we got Susie once, we got Toto twice. So does that mean we had a pack of wolves on the show this weekend?
Okay, I'll follow that up with Susie Wolff said it's still a man's world. She said it's not a man's world anymore, she said, but it is still Father's Day. So we're going to leave it with that. We want to thank everybody for tuning in. We have this week, Chris and I on Wheel to Wheel show. Look that one up because it's on another network, as they say. depending on where you're listening right now. It may be on the same network, but we have that coming up on Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern. But next Sunday, there's no F1, but we do have Speed City, our Sunday night with Speed City. Thanks, Bob Varsha. Thanks, Chris Medland. And we'll talk to you next week.